My memo tonight is a letter from India, that rising economic giant of Asia that boasts of being the world's second most populous country and the world's most populous democracy. These last few days, I had a chance to travel to Bangalore in India on a medical trip with a family member. What I saw there amazed and saddened me in equal measure. Amazed because of the excellent medical services affordably available in a good number of regular hospitals there. But sad because it was a poignant reminder of what is possible in Kenya. Yet, it's not. I have heard other stories about India, but let me speak about what I saw, limited as it may have been. I saw people from all walks of life receive the same medical service regardless of economic status. I learned that in August 2018, the government of India rolled out a new healthcare program that aimed at bringing affordable healthcare to a staggering 100 million families. The National Health Protection Mission, or Ayushman Bharat, was to give poor families health coverage of up to an equivalent of 700,000 shillings every year. I learned that public hospitals in India offer free care. This has over the years strained the system to a point where it was struggling to secure facilities and staff to care for the sick in a country of 1.3 billion people. So rather than invest endlessly in the public system, the government has decided to pay for private hospitals to pick more of the slack. Now, the private healthcare industry in India is booming, drawing staff away from the public hospitals. In fact, India is expected to make over $130 billion from healthcare tourism by the year 2020. During my visit there, I met many Kenyans seeking treatment for various ailments, the most common being cancer. I was informed that the poor were also able to afford the same services because of special medical schemes by the government, under which they are able to receive services at subsidized costs. One such system is the RSBY. The beneficiaries are issued what they call a below poverty line or BPL card and receive medical cover for up to 5 family members. The benefits under this scheme also include a cashless hospitalization. There's also the Yashasvini Health Insurance Scheme, which provides cost-effective medical facilities to low-income farmers and informal workers. Of course, critics insist the government has a long way to go, but at least it is taking giant steps in giving the poor access to affordable, quality medical services. Here in Kenya, you all remember the widely shared video of Grace Wambui, whose sister desperately needed treatment but could not get it. She was recorded crying and saying, and I quote, "Hii Kenya ni ya wenye pesa. Mimi maskini, mtu wa kufulia watu nguo, nani ananijua? Hakuna anayejua maskini. Hii Kenya ni ya matajiri." Sadly, her sister Esther died, and the family has been raising money to have her body released from the mortuary. That is the story of Kenya, ladies and gentlemen. That is the story of many Wambois out there. The story of a Kenya that is shortchanging its vulnerable sons and daughters. I've said this before, that the big four should be reduced to just one agenda: affordable and quality healthcare for all. After all, the Indians say, "Jaan hai to jahan hai," whose direct translation is, if there is life, there is the world, meaning it all only matters if you are alive. And that's my memo.
On my kicker tonight, I concur with the many Kenyans who contend that July was nothing short of a most morbid season for the country. There was death and pain, loss and agony, and generally very bad news all around us. This first day of August, for example, the nation held funeral services for 2 of several prominent persons that died in the month of July. Kenneth Okoth, the late Member of Parliament for Kibera constituency, and Joyce Laboso, the departed governor of the county of Bomet. Tonight, I want to submit on behalf of journalists who cover bad news. First, at a personal, human level, covering bad news is not easy for journalists. Secondly, and unknown to many, most regular newsmakers become family. They populate the phone books of journalists and the newsroom sources database. We speak to them on and off the record on varied issues of public interest. But we also get to know them as fellow human beings, private family persons, regular citizens, and ordinary, vulnerable members of society. They become part of our ecosystem, and we, annoying as many sometimes find, part of their ecosystem. Then there are thousands of ordinary Kenyans we encounter in the course of covering bad news. Some are victims of untold tragedies like the Solai Dam disaster or the Dusit terror attack, and others are victims of agonizing living through disease, poverty, and unemployment. In all these circumstances, it is the humanity of journalists that is tested to the limit. Yet the long-practiced norm in journalism is to be objective, neutral, and dispassionate while doing a story. We are trained to set aside our emotions, block our feelings, and not get involved while doing our job. In covering news, and bad news at that, we are trained to proceed as if there is no place or room for tears. But do not be deceived by our sometimes straight faces. We feel the pain of our people, their agony and sense of loss. Bad news breaks us down. Whether it's that jobless university first-class graduate or the death of a chief executive officer of Kenya's most profitable company. Whether it's the anguish of a poor woman who can't pay her sister's hospital bill, or tribulations of a prominent VIP desperately seeking cancer treatment world over. Human suffering and bad news cuts deep every journalist's heart, and July was such a month of distress. We are glad it is over. That is my kicker.
Well, I'm almost sure that many of you neither know nor have ever heard of John Muchiri Nyaga. He's the Member of Parliament for Manyata constituency in Embu County. Now, let me tell you about something he did yesterday that has raised uproar, and while at it, triggered a discourse on the politics around funding of projects using public resources. Muchiri was at St. Benedict's Day Secondary School, Kithimu, yesterday, handing over a bus purchased via the National Government Constituency Development Fund, NGCDF. Nothing wrong at all with this project. But the MP branded the bus with his image and name, supposedly because he's the patron of the constituency's development fund, whatever that means. You see, one would understand if we were talking about funds that had been generously donated by Muchiri and his family and friends, or if some benevolent ancestor of his had left his life's saving to be used in buying school buses. But no, we are talking about public funds raised through your taxes and mine. But you won't believe what the MP gave as his defense following a public uproar. And he said, and I quote, "The branding was for the handing over ceremony purpose only. Immediately after the bus was dedicated by the priest, and I handed it over, the graphics were removed." End of quote. Can anyone believe that? Decorating a bus with his portrait just for the handing over ceremony? For what purpose? So that the engine could start properly, or maybe so that the bus could move faster? But the MP is not about to stop this mindless personalization of buses. He says, and I quote, "I'm sorry to those who may feel offended, but I have 5 more buses to issue out to our day secondary schools, and the project identification graphics will apply to all, then will be removed after official handing over." End of quote. This aptly captures what is wrong with our leadership at the county, constituency, and even ward levels, where did we get this misguided idea that leaders own the projects they start in the name of the people? How many projects in Kibra would today bear the name of Ken Okoth if he were to take the Muchiri script? Actually, I'm wondering whether Muchiri will now start branding every child who gets a bursary from the NGCDF kitty. And by the way, why does a bus need to be launched or handed over at an elaborate ceremony? Why does the MP have to take all the glory for it? And this madness is now becoming a national epidemic. In every corner of this country, we now have almost all public projects, no matter how mundane, being launched with fanfare and praise songs for the launcher. But the bitter truth is that the overzealous launchers deserve no such lofty accolades. They merely are doing their job when they initiate these projects, and we, the taxpayer, already pay them too handsomely for that job. These projects are neither a favor nor a handout from the generosity of the leaders. They are Wanjiko's legitimate expectation. They are Wanjiko's right. Let's spare her the drama and the portraits too. That's my punchline.
I'd like to begin my take tonight with a tweet from Dr. Githinji Gitahi from AMREF. He says, and I quote, "Cancer is like terrorism. It's noisy, emotive, and steals headlines. As we mourn Okoth, Laboso, and Bob, let's also mourn the 1,000 that die every day from preventable causes and build a primary healthcare system that prevents cancer and other deaths. Let's not knee-jerk to cancer centers." End quote. Well, what knee-jerks, you may ask? Here's a few for starters. After Bob Collimore's death, many asked his successor, Michael Joseph, to lead Safaricom in building a cancer center. Now, in the wake of the latest deaths, Kenyatta National Hospital is reported to have secured a pay bill number asking you, Kenyans of goodwill, to raise funds to build a 140-room hostel for cancer patients who are undergoing outpatient cancer care to the tune of 230 million shillings. This is the same hospital that's facing a 1 billion shilling cash crunch, most of which is due to delay in payments from the National Health Insurer. It is also the very same hospital that recently denied, ironically, a cancer patient treatment until she died just recently. And now, there's a bill in Parliament calling for the President to declare cancer a national disaster. All good ideas, but do they on their own help us out of this devastating situation? The truth is, folks, we have been down this road before. In 2016, a deal was signed between the Indian Prime Minister and Kenya's President to build a multi-billion cancer center. 3 years later, we're still waiting for the financing, design, and eventual construction to begin. And what of the National Cancer Institute, a body mandated to oversee the activities concerning cancer? Also started 3 years ago, but had just one employee, an acting CEO for the better part of 3 years, until some time ago when 8 more were added against the request of 100. The mere 14 million shillings it was given as a grant, over which it has no direct control. Knee-jerk reactions. Similar to our behavior following a terrorist attack, when security is heightened at all government and private installations, with security guards searching our entire beings for God knows what, and then restore to factory settings after a few weeks. Fellow Kenyans, I submit to you that the real national disaster here is not cancer, but our leaders who use these highly emotional moments following the death of prominent individuals to make rosy statements. Give cancer patients free treatment, they say. Mandatory free screening, they ask. Build a cancer center, they plead. All these free things they call for are not free. Someone has to pay for it. Where, pray tell, are we to find this money, when the National Assembly and the Senate cannot even agree on 11 billion shillings for the counties, which, by the way, handle 90% of the health function? When the President himself so boldly reminded the counties that he does not print money and they should be satisfied with what they get. Fixing this problem, if you ask any medical mind out there, is not rocket science. First of all, gather all the data on cancer. Finish mapping out all the counties and fully understand the extent and the scope of the problem. Build that cancer center. The MPs may also want to ensure that the National Cancer Institute is funded before calling for more free funds. Fully implement the National Cancer Strategy 2017-2022. Establish at least 4 comprehensive regional cancer treatment centers distributed in the 47 counties. Strengthen county and sub-county hospitals to provide surgery, chemotherapy, and palliative care, including outpatient and inpatient hospice care. But most importantly, fix the entire health system. Empower the UHC program that focuses on primary care, where screening and accurate diagnosis would be done. In this way, you would be dealing not just with cancer, but with a myriad of other killer diseases that cripple our human resource and burden our economy. Let's kick this plan into action. And not just because of the prominent Kenyans who've died so far, but for the over 32,000 Kenyans who will die from cancer this year. And that is my take tonight.
My angle tonight is about permanent head damage. Well, that is an old joke they used to make about the real meaning of PhDs. But events of recent days would almost give one such permanent head damage. I'm thinking about the PhD saga now associated with the Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology. Now, this head-damaging episode comes from a report that was released by the regulator of university education in this country. That is the Commission on University Education, or CUE. Now, CUE in its report raised numerous questions about the quality of PhDs awarded by JKUAT at 3 graduation ceremonies since last year. The Commission raised such grave issues as the quality of supervision owing to the large number of candidates relative to the number of professors. They also cast doubts on whether all the PhD candidates got their work published in reputable academic journals as required. Now, the university has since dismissed the claims, insisting that its PhD programs do indeed pass muster. But the entire saga has left the university looking bad. It has left the regulator, CUE, looking like it slept on the job. And believe it or not, it has the potential of bringing into disrepute the entire education system in the country. First, anyone who was at any Kenyan university in the 80s or even 90s would recall the rare sight that was the silk scarlet or black gown punctuated by the academic term around the head with a tassel draped on the left side hanging at the center. That was the signature look of the men or women who had scaled the academic ladder all the way to its very zenith. And there would be just 2 or 3 of them across all disciplines in one graduation. So it is of course understandable when some Kenyans express shock at the thought of having, listen to this, 327 PhDs from one university from just 3 graduations. But you know that is not a crime. It's just a point of wonder. But there is an even greater question. When was the Commission for, where, I should say, was the Commission for University Education all this while? Why would they come in 2019 to tell us that there's something wrong with PhD programs that have been running since 2014? Why would a regulator turn into a mortician giving us the shocking news after the fact? Did they just wake up to realize that this university had satellite campuses offering PhD courses? Did they just discover that those campuses did not have professors? I mean, a PhD is not a joke. It is a serious mark of academic health in a country. How can it be treated so flippantly? Now the Commission says it has asked the very university to review its own programs and give a report in 3 months. I don't understand that. How can the university, together with its organs, essentially investigate itself? Or am I missing something here about the role of a regulator? Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure there are many Kenyans who have earned their PhDs right here in Kenya by the sweat of their brow, including from JKUAT itself. Why would we put them in such a situation where they would have to defend their hard-earned credentials everywhere they go? How about Kenyans going to seek various opportunities abroad? And at a time when we still cannot figure out what to do with this CBC thing? Come on. Education is a serious pillar in any society, and only a society that hates itself can dare play games with it. Albert Einstein could not have been more right when he said, when you stop learning, you start dying. I rest my case.
By the way, there's a gentleman called Dr. Mbogwa. He tells me, please tell Joe, I did my PhD professionally for 6 years. 6.
Yes, those are the people I'm worried about.
I heard Professor Kiapi say it's a club.
Some feedback here too on the issue of staying in office. What would happen if an MP is charged with corruption? Will they be barred from accessing parliament, and what would become of the representation of their constituents? President, governor, MPs carry with them the important democratic principle of the will of the people that courts in many liberal democracies have been hesitant to nullify at the stroke of the pen.
I wonder whether the MP enjoys executive power with staff and all these people they can fire at the drop of a hat.
By the Justice John Onyego of the High Court will tomorrow be hearing that matter. Remember, Governor Waitito, through his lawyers, Professor Tom Ojenda and others, contested Magistrate Mugambi's ruling. So tomorrow they have an opportunity to explain a few of these things that we've been discussing here before Justice John Onyego. Let's see what the DPP says in defense of the verdict by Mugambi, and what Ojenda and team will be saying while opposing that decision. It should be interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're done. Yvonne, utafunga kipindi?
Yes, thanks for watching the show tonight. We'll see you next week.
You're not launching the exit?
Oh, sorry.
No portraits.
No, then my portrait should be on that screen.
I see what you just done.
All right, good night.
Good night.